Hi guys. I decided to go live again because I'm bored. I had dinner. Everything's, prepared for me to just wind down and get ready for bed, but I was like, I don't want to go to bed yet. Let's read. I feel like we could read some more of this book. So, one second, let me turn off our living room television or turn it down or something because we're about to get deep into this book again. Ladies get paid. We're going to dive into chapter 1, okay? And then tomorrow, I guess, if we don't get to chapter 2 tonight, because I feel like these chapters are a bit lengthy, then we'll start chapter 2 tomorrow if we don't get to it tonight. But hold on one second. Let me go turn down the television so you guys can hear me better. One second. Get a snack. Get a snack. Okay, so I'm back. Everybody get cozy, get a snack, get a blanket, get a heater if you need it. I don't have a heater, but usually I would have one because I tend to get cold very easily. But anyway, I have my ice cream, some non-dairy caramel brownie. I'm pescatarian, but I still try to stay away from dairy. So I have a non-dairy caramel brownie frozen dessert made with almond milk, and it's plant-based, it says. And this is what it looks like. I got it from Target. It's called Favorite Day. It says vanilla flavored frozen dessert with brownie pieces and caramel swirl. And I've eaten quite a bit of it. So while we're reading, I think I'm going to eat some of this ice cream. I can't wait. It's pretty good. I was eating it the other day and I was like, this is pretty tasty. My mouth is already salivating because it's so good. I know it's going to be good. And let me put on these blue light glasses because I've been being exposed. You guys can tell that I'm sleepy. I'm kind of sleepy already. But I said, why not dig into chapter 1 while I'm awake? So that's what we're gonna do. Put on my blue light glasses. What is that on my glasses? Something white. Oh, I don't know what they came from, but anyways, because I don't know. But anyway, all right. So we left off reading the introduction. We finished the introduction, and now we're gonna go on to part 1. Build your foundation. Y'all, I really feel like this is probably like one of the weirdest, oldest, most boring ways to have a YouTube video by just reading to you guys. But hopefully you guys learned something from this book since I've been focused on this kind of stuff in my channel lately. Since I've been focused on this type of stuff on my channel lately, I was like, why not just read to you guys what I'm reading? And you guys can literally live the life with me while I'm reading. You guys can read with me. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, so get your ice cream, your popcorn, whatever. And let's find out how to make this money. But first, take a lick of your ice cream. Okay, I'm talking too much. All right, part 1. Let me cover my ice cream a little bit. Part 1, build your foundation. How did we get here? We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. Oh my gosh, you guys. This is like from Beyonce's song Bow Down or Flawless. Flawless, yes. You know this quote from Beyonce's Flawless if you're a Beyonce fan. So that's why I'm saying it the way I'm saying. I'm saying it like Chimamanda Adichie said it in Beyonce's video and in the, I think it's in the actual recording of it as well. But anyway, we teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful. And that quote is by Chimamanda Adichie. We should all be feminists. That's what that's from. And if you guys can hear some man voice in the background, it's my stepdad. He's outside in the backyard talking extremely loud. And it's so crazy because he barely talks. But tonight he wants to go outside and talk super loud. Make it make sense. Anyway. Snapchat. Somebody snapping me on Snapchat. But anyway. How did we get here? Before we can advocate for ourselves in the world, we have to first believe that we are worthy of advocacy. Let me share this before I get deep into it to Facebook so that they can watch as well. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and press the like button and go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time that I post, because this is actually going to be a summer reading program that I'm doing, since I'm just in the mood to read to everybody and help you be knowledgeable on financial growth. And I just know that a lot of people lack the desire to read. And I think that this will really help people out a lot who want to be knowledgeable, but who don't have the time or who just don't want to pick up a book and read. A lot of us, the Bible says, my people suffer because of their lack of knowledge. And I totally believe that. And I believe that reading is one way to knowledge. And so I'm willing to sit here and read to you guys so that you can find out more about having great money management skills and financial stability. And with that being said, here we go. Before we can advocate for ourselves in the world, we have to first believe that we are worthy of advocacy. This begins with examining our inner beliefs and the mindsets we carry into our lives and workplaces. Are they truly aligned with where we want to go? In chapter 1, Get Aligned, also get a notepad or a notebook to write. I have mine right here. This is actually my financial journal. I kind of just write things in, like ways that I want to make money and things. So if I were you guys, I would take notes maybe. It's very effective and very helpful if you take notes when you're listening to a book, especially about financial literacy. So I'm just going to write chapter 1, Get Aligned. In chapter one, Get Aligned, we'll explore the cultural messaging we've received about women in work and how that has impacted our career decisions. As millennial women, we were told growing up that we could achieve anything we wanted as long as we were willing to work hard. On the one hand, this was incredibly encouraging. Many of the women who came before us were told all the things they could not do. But creating equal opportunity for women is also more complicated than simply changing what young women are told. As children, we learn that there is an ideal girl. She is nice, pretty, accommodating, gets good grades, and puts family first. We are rewarded if we become that girl and criticized if we don't. What that demonstrates to us is that our worth is contingent on the approval of others. This is further reinforced as we get older, so it's no wonder that we may start to contort ourselves to be whatever we think others need us to be. In turn, these messages can sometimes warp the expectations we have for our careers and make us lose sight of all of what fulfills us. Or if we do not what wait, or if we do know what we want, but it doesn't line up with the norm, we may silence our desires in order to adhere to the safety of the status quo. Good old water. Okay, y'all are drinking water. Okay. Just as there's an ideal girl, there's also an ideal career with only so many paths to get there. This idea that there is a right path assumes that there is also a wrong one because as women, we've been brought up to please others. We, of course, feel pressure to do the right thing. The problem is, we might not stop to consider if that's truly the right thing for us. In chapter one, we'll talk about how to identify the societal, cultural, and familial messages that could be interfering with our judgment and how to develop methods for tuning back in with ourselves and redefining what success really means to us. Once you have an authentic vision of what success means to you, you have to believe you are worthy of it. In order to do that, you must confront any limiting beliefs that may be holding you back or keeping you small. Here's a thought exercise. When you think of a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, what do they look like? Did you picture a woman or a person of color? Your mental image of a CEO is probably influenced by the fact that the number of female Fortune 500 CEOs has never risen above 6.4%. In fact, in 2018, there were more Fortune 500 CEOs named John than there were women on the list. Beyond that, there are entire industries with barely any women in them. When you don't see yourself represented in a certain environment, it is easy to assume that this is not a place you can access or a role you would excel in without changing something about yourself. As women enter the workforce, this realization has an undeniable effect. Optimism can easily be replaced by doubt. Am I good enough to make it? It's also incredibly easy to turn that doubt inward, just as I've done after the advertising festival. Is something wrong with me? In the face of such doubt, many of us do what we've been taught to do: keep our heads down, work hard, and wait to be rewarded. But what I hear from women over and over again is that they ascend in their field of choice. Their male colleagues seem to be getting ahead, while promotions and raises for women are harder to come by. This is not in our imagination. According to psychologist and organizational consultant Thomas Chamorro, Premusic studies how that men are more likely to be rewarded based on their potential, whereas women have to prove themselves again and again, solidifying our self-doubt even more. Studies also show that men are paid more, and this is the final nail in the coffin of self-worth. That's the tangible proof of what we'd feared all along, that we are less valuable and must adjust our expectations of what we are capable of and what we desire we deserve. All of these factors, slower promotion cycles, lower wages, poor representation in positions of power, can come together and form a misguided foundation of how we operate in the workplace. This uncertain foundation is largely built on two core beliefs. We are not as good as we present ourselves to be, and that people will find out, i.e., imposter syndrome. Anything less than flawless is a failure, and in turn, we are the failure, i.e., perfectionism. Imposter syndrome and perfectionism are like two sides of the same coin, both born from the belief that our worth is largely based on how well we perform. Remember that childhood conditioning where one's worth is contingent on doing the right thing as an ideal girl? This can get in our way of embracing our self-worth, taking risks, and standing up for ourselves. When we constantly play catch up to what we think worthiness looks like, we risk expending energy, often to the point of burnout. Imposter syndrome and perfectionism also have the power to keep us small, not speaking up at a meeting for fear of looking dumb, or not applying for a job that we don't think we're 100% qualified for. These kinds of beliefs limit our expectations for what we can achieve and even how we think we deserve to be treated. We'll adjust each in turn in chapters 2 and 3, teaching you how to recognize these habits and thoughts and stop them from running the show. A lot of this work may feel uncomfortable at best and painful at worst. You may be undoing old habits and rethinking your choices. As scary as that can be, stick with it. I promise it'll pay off figuratively and literally. Once we address these internal obstacles, we can clear the way to make real, unimpeded progress out in the world. You've got this. Okay, so it sounds like this chapter 1, 2, and 3 are going to be about undoing the beliefs that we've been equipped with since being little girls. That's basically what she said. So if you want to take a little snacky snack and eat a little bit, let's do that right now, because I got to rest my voice for a second. It sounds like this book is going to be pretty good. Go ahead and click the like button, please. And subscribe so you won't miss the rest of this series. Hi, we're about to dive into chapter 1 of Claire Wasserman's Ladies Get Paid. So if you're interested, keep watching. We're taking a snack break, so go ahead and get your snack of your choice. Get you some water. Get you some ginger ale, because that's what we're doing. We're snacking and reading. Yes, ideal girl. We were conditioned to be this ideal girl. And so now chapter 1, 2, and 3 is going to teach us about undoing the myths and the beliefs that we have been instilled with as young girls in society since our beginning. So let's see what it says. Chapter 1, get aligned. By her senior year of college, Alicia had become seriously concerned about her future. She'd started her freshman year confident about what she would do after graduation. She also loved writing, being creative, and learning about other people. Growing up, Alicia idolized Barbara Walters and wanted to follow in her footsteps and become a journalist. But over time, a little voice crept into her consciousness. Her parents had immigrated from Korea to the United States with very little, and here she was at Harvard, one of the world's most prestigious institutions. Shouldn't she be using this 1 in a million opportunity to set herself up on a path towards success and financial security? Suddenly, her dream of becoming a journalist felt frivolous and even a little selfish. So during her freshman year, Alicia switched her major from English to sociology, rationalizing that it was more business. She said business oriented and therefore more practical. As graduation loomed large and official adulthood crept closer, Alicia was feeling anxious, even panicked. She worried that she worried that she might have actually squandered her education by denying herself the chance to pursue what she was genuinely excited about. Now she feared it was too late to turn back. Her anxiety, or as she referred to it, that sick feeling, grew and grew until Alicia almost paralyzed by it, barely leaving her room except for meals. Then the recruiters came, descending on campus in droves. They represented hedge funds, consulting firms, and investment banks, pitching the students on careers befitting Ivy League graduates. These soon to be grads had gone to the best schools. Didn't they deserve the best jobs? Not to mention the enormous paychecks. The recruiters assured them that starting their careers at such elite companies would put them on the fast track to guaranteed success. But what exactly was success? Alicia wondered. Financial security, an impressive title at a big name company, or was it something more personal and harder to describe? She banished this sick feeling and dutifully dressed up in what she hoped resembled business attire and joined the rest of the students who jostled to get into the right networking events in front of the right recruiters. Everyone was competing for the pot of gold that was promised at the end of the rainbow. All they had to do was follow it. Whether it's silently modeled or explicitly stated, many of us are raised with a vision of what our lives will look like: stability, a spouse, kids. Certain professions are deemed serious and others silly. As adults, we take the vision on as our own, even though it's inherited from those who came before us, our parents, schools, society, our churches, role models, and mentors. When we are faced with making critical decisions, we may orient toward the vision without question, choosing paths that will lead us to the right destination with the least amount of struggle. Early on in my career, I was very lucky to have been challenged to put myself past what I thought I wanted to what I deeply needed. Just a few months after I graduated, I met Stephanie, who was around 15 years older than me and much wiser, and who would go on to become a mentor of mine. I vividly remember a conversation we had where he asked me what to what my definition of success was. As I began to answer, Stephanie waved his hand, motioning me to stop. Whose voice is that? I was confused. I hadn't said anything. Try again, he said. I barely uttered a sound when Stephanie put his hand up again. Try again. Now, I wasn't just confused, I was annoyed. But before I could say anything, he smiled. Is that voice your mother's, your father's, your school's? I then realized that what he was doing was pushing me to consider that there are infinite ways to imagine the future and that I was allowed to have my own personal definition of success, not bound or limited by who may have influenced me or what I'd been exposed to. He was also challenging me to be brave and think for myself. Coming up with my own definition of success meant that I had to question and maybe even reject what I also thought to be true and start fresh with my own ideas. This was what this is what Alicia had attempted to do during her freshman year when she set her sights on a journalism career. But her inner critic had quickly swooped in to protect her from taking a risk, and she changed her course. 4 years later, even though she felt lost, Alicia actually knew more than she realized. That sick, anxious feeling was like a signal trying to alert her that she was headed in a direction that was unlikely to lead to purpose and fulfillment. Still, it would take some time and real world experiences. before she was able to heed the signs her body was sending her. In this chapter, we'll see how Alicia, a high achiever most anyone would consider a success, confronts the assumptions about work that she's carried her whole life and how they've influenced the decisions she's made in her career, not always for the best. Overcoming external expectations means recognizing that you have the power to define your own direction no matter your circumstances. To change your way of thinking, you have to confront the assumptions you carry, where they come from, and how they've influenced your decisions, for better or worse. As you do this work, you may find that you begin to look at the unknown exhilarating, not terrifying. There is no formula whereby you answer some questions and out pops your dream career. Instead, you'll learn how to trust your instinct over your inner critic and create a system to evaluate opportunities that are aligned with your values and goals. And while it will always be a little scary to stand up for what you want, you'll feel pride in taking control of your career. You'll also be more motivated, which in turn will help you do your best work, putting you in a position for rewards and recognition. You've earned it. Listen to your instinct. When Alicia received a job offer from a big consulting firm shortly after graduation, she took it immediately. While this wasn't what she would necessarily have imagined for herself during college, it would at least put her on track where she knew she'd have financial and professional security. She assumed that sick feeling, still with her since college, would go away soon. A few months into the job, it was still there. But Alicia was so busy that she barely noticed it. She was putting in long days at the office, so what little energy she had left was spent doing the minimal self-care necessary for survival, sleeping, eating, and showering. The workload was grueling, but it was the norm. Everyone was in the same boat, so who was she to complain? This was the price you had to pay for a big paycheck. No stranger to working hard in college, Alicia could handle long hours and taking work home on the weekends. But it was the office politics that really rankled her. After proving her competence on smaller projects over a few months, Alicia got the opportunity to lead a project for a high-profile client. She prepared for weeks only to have the opportunity to present her hard work to the client taken away and given to someone else the day of the presentation. I was laying out all the slides of our PowerPoint to do one final review. As I was walking the team through it, a senior executive walked in. She thanked me for my work and informed me that Paul would be presenting it to the client. I was stunned. Paul was a newer employee, and from what Alicia could gather, a master in politicking. She had, on the other hand, she, on the other hand, would describe herself as an introvert. She never considered this a liability before. It didn't matter whether or not you were contagious. Not contagious. It didn't matter whether or not you were gregarious, she thought. What mattered was how well you did the job, right? She'd been raised to believe that the working hard would get her ahead. And it had until then. But now something was off, and she didn't know what. Like so many other women, Alicia assumed the problem was with her. She needed to not just work hard, but schmooze better and be aggressive in a way that the company clearly rewarded. She never really considered the contorting herself into the company needed her to be wasn't the only way to work, but it was hard to see any other way, given that most of her friends were having similar experiences. Clearly, this was just what it meant to be a working professional. Alicia hit her breaking point a year later when she returned from a major business trip. She'd gone to Korea, where almost as soon as her team landed, after a 14-hour flight, they rushed right into their first client meeting. For the next 3 days, they ran around the city, gathering firsthand market research, talking to locals, and all the while, Alicia, who is half Korean, was real-time translating from Korean into English for her teammates, then back into Korean. A two-way language translation is incredibly draining mentally and difficult to pull off well. And doubt and doubly so when you are doing it for your direct boss. I was obviously sent on this business trip because of my language skills and because it would save the company thousands of dollars, perhaps tens of thousands, rather than paying an external interpreter. Upon her return to the United States, Alicia promptly got sick. She was able to hold it together for a client presentation, but the next day, jet lagged and ill, she called in sick. She figured she could take a day to recover, given how hard she just worked. Wrong. Early that morning, Early that morning, the phone rang. It was her boss's boss calling to express his concern not for her health, but for her absence. If she wasn't willing to put in the hours, he said, he was worried that she wasn't cut out to be a consultant. Alicia was taken aback. She'd been killing herself, working around the clock. The conversation then spiraled into whether she was a good fit for the company. Similar to the time her presentation was given to Paul, Alicia was left feeling totally unsure and unsettled, not understanding where things had gone wrong. As upsetting as the call was, it was the catalyst. Alicia needed to be brutally honest with herself. Why wasn't she getting ahead at this job? Why wasn't she happier? It wasn't just the work life balance that was exhausting. It was also constantly trying to twist into what she thought she needed to do and be in order to be successful. Alicia was starting to wake up to the possibility that as much as she needed to be right for the company had to be right for her as well. The relationship needed to go both ways. This duality was something she had never really considered before. Instead of pushing the dread and discomfort away, Alicia needed to pay attention when things felt wrong and get to the bottom of it. Wow, this is so crazy. This reminds me of something. I used to work at Ross, and a lot of people during the time when I used to work in retail, people used to talk about how a company could replace you in one day for you being sick. So, like, people would just be pushing the narrative that it's good for you to take your off day to be sick because a company, if you died today, a company could just replace you the next day and not even give a crap and not even care that you died. You know what I'm saying? They don't really care about you. They just care about productivity and getting the job done. And oh my gosh, that's disgusting. Go ahead and click the like button if you're just now coming on. We're talking about this book, Ladies Get Paid by Claire Wasserman. But anyways, yeah, it's like really disgusting. They're more concerned about productivity and wow, it's like really, really sad, especially for women. And men. It's just sad all the way around. But anyways, let's continue. Challenge your assumptions. In the 1950s, psychologist Karen Horney identified a phenomenon that Alicia and so many others subscribe to: the tyranny of the should. Her theory posited that we have two views of ourselves: the real self, who we are, and the ideal self, the model of who we think we should be. If we feel our real self isn't living up to the ideal, hello to all perfectionists and imposters in the room. We believe we are fundamentally flawed and as a result can have a hard time fulfilling our potential. Unless we challenge the assumptions that there is some ideal self we should inhabit, we'll continue the cycle of self-doubt, self-flagellation, and dissatisfaction. A way to replace those shoulds is to understand where they came from. That means digging into your past, how you were raised, the messages you received, how those around you influence your opinions and choices about work, including whether or not it was gendered. For example, growing up where you taught that certain jobs were or were not meant for women, it can be hard to imagine ourselves in industries and roles that for so long have been deemed male. engineering, constructing, tech. With so few women at the top or in visible roles, we can feel even more cut off from those spaces. As the saying goes, you can't be what you can't see. Throw some imposter syndrome into the mix, and our vision of what a career can or should be becomes even more limited. Yes, that's very true. Corporate America is that way. And yes, if you are your own boss, then you can treat people differently and have a better outcome. I feel like people will work even better. I agree. Sadly, these limitations can be such internal and external. I've heard from too many women who don't think they're good enough or deserving enough to have a job that brings fulfillment. It's not that they don't want it, it's just so far from their current circumstances that they can't even consider it a possible outcome. If any of this sounds familiar, it's time for a gut check. How much have the shoulds dominated the way you've approached your career? How much are you guided by your voice versus the voice of your parents, schoolmates, or the culture around you? Take some time to consider the following questions. You can write down your answers if you like, or simply think them through. But allow yourself the space to really consider what has influenced the beliefs you carry about your career path. Understand your influences. Okay, so you guys, it has this little section right here, and it says you can write these down. So as I talk, if you want to write it down, you can write down the questions or your answers to the questions. What career paths did you have exposure to when growing up? So the career paths I was exposed to were nursing, and I'm just gonna put medical field in general. Um, Department of Human Services, and like business stuff. You had to have a business degree to do. So yeah, did the adults around you discuss their jobs openly? Yes, they did discuss their jobs openly. What was your impression of them? I was more geared toward the scientific side. Like my mom was a nurse, so I was more interested in science. But I also had my own thoughts about wanting to be a businesswoman and possibly being a singer and the arts. I was really into artistic stuff, but I also liked chemistry, so I thought about being a chemist. Did adults in your life ever explicitly share their expectations for your career? Yes, my mom was like, you straight up just need to do something in the medical field that's gonna be like stable. Um, did anything and what did they say? I told you guys. Did anything in your environment influence what you thought of work in general and the way you looked at your own career? I felt like I should do something scientific because that's what my mom did, and I kind of wanted to be like my mom. And I also felt like if I took an artsy career, I used to always tell my mom, I'm prepared to be broke and homeless. And she was always like, you're not going to be broke and homeless. Um, what has been the major driver of your career choices? Has anyone commented on those choices? And if so, what did they say? So the major driver was like my mom giving me the okay to go ahead and go for my artistic career. She didn't want, as time went by, I would hear her say things like, she's done well enough up through school. I think she's good enough to go ahead and choose whatever she wants to do. And that, you can go for it. I don't want you to have to work as hard or be under such as much pressure as I was obtaining the degrees and being in such a um, demanding and competitive field like I am. So go ahead, go for your artistic endeavors. And that made me feel good and that made me press forward. Do I still have to hear about what life as a nurse probably would have granted me instead? Yeah, duh. Like it's so cool. Like it's cool though at the same time because I get to see what her students, because I kind of grew up with her students, my mom's nursing students. I grew up with them. I'm seeing how what it's like to be a nurse, as well as I'm seeing how I have different avenues that I can go down and different paths that I can take to tackle my career as a designer, as a theater maker, who has the potential to make creative theatrical plots, as well as like I could direct it, I could make the set, I can make the props for the theater and things like that. So I was able to grow up with nursing students as well as be able to see what path that I could take in my own field. Um, what has been the major? Oh, okay, so have you ever done or not done something only because you thought it was the right thing for your career? What was the outcome? No, I've just been doing whatever I feel like the divine God has led me to do. I don't do anything based on, oh, I think it's the right thing. I just go wherever the wind blows, kind of. Wherever God takes me, that is where I go with my career. Um and the outcome has been a success. Period. Also, I also do whatever I want to, whatever God has put on my heart. Like I told myself that I didn't want to be working for anyone else, and it came true. You have to put it into the atmosphere. God hears you, and just put it out into the universe and it's just going to come to you. As long as you keep your mind set on that, as long as you pray about it, as long as you stay focused on that, you can make it happen. Have you ever regretted any of your career choices? No, I haven't. Have there been times in your life where your gut told you something but you didn't listen to it? Of course, everybody's experienced that. What do you think was stopping you? Curiosity. Curiosity stops us from listening to our gut a lot. Are there any professions or roles that you feel are totally inaccessible to you? Why? Probably being in the entertainment industry a little bit, because I kind of wanted to be a singer, but I feel like it's really really a shady industry, kind of, or kind of weird or awkward industry to be a part of. I've seen a lot of people do some little strange things for a little bit of change when it comes to getting into the industry, and I'm not down for that. I'd rather not deal with that. Okay, so the next part of chapter 1 is about find clues. It's called Find Clues. And let's dive into that. Alicia never actually felt pressure to follow any defined path. In fact, her parents encouraged her to pursue whatever she wanted. It was Alicia who put pressure on herself. She was acutely aware of how much her parents had given up to come to this country, so she never considered a job that might be associated with financial insecurity. As you examine your assumptions, where they came from, and how they've influenced you, you might start to feel unmoored. You're in a sort of no whoa man's land. You may have identified expectations you're ready to let go of, but haven't yet landed on a new world view that's consonant with your values and what truly resonates with you. How do you get to that point? Let's begin by digging deeper into your past for the clues that will help orient you toward the future. The best clues can be found in the things that energize you, or in other words, when you're in flow. Coined by psychologist Mihaly, I cannot say the name. I'm not going to try to screw it up. Flow is defined as a state of complete involvement in an activity for its own sake. As he describes it, the ego falls away, time flies, every action, movement, and thought flows from the previous one. In a way, it's like playing jazz. Your whole being is involved and you're using your skills to the utmost. Think about times in your life when you felt in complete flow, when you're fully engaged, all cylinders burning, time melting away. As you examine those memories, go beyond just what you were doing. Where you were doing it is just as important. Our environment has an enormous impact on how we feel and our ability to do our best work. Take into account things like what time of day it is, what the space looked like, what about people, what level of interaction did it require? Was it in front of a computer? Did it require physical activity? There are dozens of bits of information to glean that once you process them, can help you determine what is important to you in a work environment or field of work. This can also help you decide if there are things you want to negotiate for at your current position, such as flex time or remote working. More examples will follow. Or if you're stuck in a situation, that's never going to lead to job satisfaction, even with major changes. On the flip side, what depletes your energy can also provide you with a ton of helpful clues. So much of knowing what you want comes from experiencing what you don't want. As Alicia learned the hard way, she hated the lack of work life balance at the consulting firm and that being aggressive was a requirement for getting ahead. She also missed being aggressive was a requirement for getting ahead. She also missed being creative. Because these factors were inherent to the position she was in, she realized that it would be nearly impossible to achieve flow in her current job. Laying out clearly what elements enhance or deplete your energy can help you figure out if you are in the right position or what you can do to improve your work environment. Here's a chart with Alicia's examples. Okay, so here is a chart that it shows in the book to show how we should map out what adds to our energy and what subtracts from our energy. So on Alicia's chart, she shows what adds to her energy was being creative, collaborative work environment, doing mission driven work. And what took from her energy was lots of travel, hierarchy, bureaucracy at work, and competitive culture. Okay. The next part is strengths. We often think that work automatically means hard work, and anything that feels natural or comes easily doesn't really count or somehow shouldn't be taken seriously. Because of that, we spend so much of our energy trying to fix what's wrong with us rather than cultivating and leaning into our strengths. When you examine your strengths, it's important to go beyond the ones that have an obvious connection to your career and find things that are innate to you. Qualities that you might not think would be related to that other life that happens at the office. Maybe you're great at organizing parties. Maybe you're a masterful networker, or maybe you're the one your friends always confide in to help solve their problems. This isn't to say you should necessarily become a party planner or a therapist, but it does give you clues to use as you seek out and evaluate opportunities. It's about translating these soft skills into jobs that not only require them, but put them front and center. The following list of questions can be used in two ways. First, give yourself a chance to define your own strengths by thinking deeply about the questions below. Then enlist the help of outside perspective. It can be challenging to see yourself objectively, so enlist a few trusted friends or colleagues to answer these questions about you too. Compare their answers with yours and see if they're are patterns you discover. Okay, so let's go down the list. I love this. You are so smart. God bless you. Thank you. Okay. Ask yourself and your wing woman, what is my greatest strength? Okay, so mom, since you're watching, what is my greatest strength? I think that my greatest strength is speaking and talking and speaking and talking. And I think that I like to work alone a lot. So I think that I have a strength of working. I actually work alone. That's kind of sad to say, but I like, oh, I'm a go getter. Okay. So you're being my wing woman. All right. So the next question is, what are things I do really well? I think that I speak really well and write very well. What do you think that I do very well, mom? What do you think that I do very well? Every ma, we're making an actual list. Okay, she said everything. I guess. What do I say? What do I do slash say slash think slash see differently from other people? What do I do differently from other people? I think everything. What kind of question is that? If you were to describe me to someone else, what would you say? I'm gonna say that I'm exciting and bubbly sometimes, I guess. All right. So the next part is interests. Interests. We're often encouraged to follow our passion, which sounds motivating at first, but can become frustrating and confusing. Usually one of two things happens. You either have so many things you're passionate about that you don't know which one to pursue, or you have no clue what you're passionate about. I think a better way to orient ourselves is toward something that makes us curious or a problem we want to solve. Dig into your interests. So here's some questions to dig into your interests. What are topics or activities that I'm continually drawn to? For me, it is YouTube, designing things, fashion, travel, things like that. What are things that motivate you? Things that move or motivate me are if it's like things that move me. Oh, for me, religion, prayers, and family. Oh, things that move or motivate me are, I guess, like family, friends. I guess relationships. Okay, so I'll just group that under relationship. Um, the arts. Oh, connecting with others. What are problems I want to solve? Um, Boredom. I want people to not be bored. Give them something to do. Save the environment. What things am I most curious about? I'm curious about I'm curious about the environment. People, God, all of that. Philosophy. I just heard you scream or something, but anyway, it says I'm motivated by work projects to help others solve issues with the community and public health. That's awesome. That's awesome. Huh? All right, so oh, and here's a bonus. Ask a friend, what do I never shut up about? Mom, what do I never shut up about? I know what you never shut up about. Nursing and helping people and stuff. What do I never shut up about? What do I never shut up about? Everything. No, give me one specific thing that I never shut up about. I can hear you saying, Okay, this is time to eat some ice cream if you guys have a snack. This ice cream is the bomb. Like, oh my goodness. I promise I'm gonna start back reading. 1 second, y'all. Yeah, my projects and my glasses. Yeah, that's true. That's something that I never shut up about. All right. The next part of Hi. We're reading Ladies Get Paid by Claire Wasserman. We're on chapter 1. Put the clues together. That section of chapter 1. Once you've done the above exercises of finding your strengths and what gives you energy, it's time to identify. Oh, well, I'm glad you came. Hit the like button and subscribe and click the notification bell because we're doing a summer reading. I'm talking about money management, hence the book. But my channel is originally about fashion, travel, and lifestyle. So I guess this will fit into the lifestyle category because this kind of has to do with how I've started a business, and you guys have been just following me on my journey, creating my business, which has become a part of my lifestyle. So while we're on that topic, I thought, why not talk about money management and read this book with you guys? And you guys can just follow along. I know people hate reading, so I was like, why not let me just read to you guys? So yeah. So go ahead, subscribe, click the bell so you'll be notified because that's what we're going to be doing for the rest of the week, reading this book. Put the clues together. Once you've done the above exercises of finding your strengths and what gives you energy, it's time to identify patterns. The things that come up repeatedly are more clues. And get out a notebook if you would like to take notes because it stops and like asks you questions and asks you to think about certain topics to help you in this journey to getting into a better field, better money management tactics and things like that. The things that come up repeatedly are more clues you'll use to point you in the direction of new careers and opportunities to explore. As I mentioned in the beginning of this chapter, it's difficult to know what options are out there if you've never been exposed to them before. When I graduated from college, my mother helped me define my strengths, experience, and values, as well as things that I liked and disliked, what I was great at, and what I was passionate about. When I finished college at Parsons, the New School of Design in New York, and then I came back home to South Mississippi, I was overwhelmed and freaked out. And I wanted to do YouTube. I wanted to start a fashion company. I wanted to do a bunch of crap. But then COVID happened and I started making these glasses. I don't even have one that's sitting next to me that's actually made. Maybe I should show you. I'll show you guys, or you can look at one of my past videos. But in I graphic design glasses for a living, and I also graphic design masks. All of this happened during the pandemic after I graduated. Got stuck here, started doing all of this. Didn't even think I was going this route. I was a fashion designer who was going to be the Black Tom Ford. But now you can't tell me that because I'm graphic designing everything in sight. And that is my career right now. So, yeah, and mom made me just sit down, make a list of things that I wanted to do to get my mind right. But then the pandemic came and I just started all these businesses, doing all these different things. Now all my glasses are in a lot of gas stations around my hometown, as well as the owner of all those gas stations. She also owns a souvenir store here in Mississippi called Mississippi Made and More. So you can find some of my work there as well. But yeah, my mom had to sit me down as well, just like she's talking about in this book. Then she helped me brainstorm opportunities that might be a good fit. For example, in high school, I helped organize a campaign to raise money for an all-girls school in Afghanistan because it was something I did that was self-motivated and that I enjoyed. It demonstrated a potential career path. My mom introduced me to this thing called development, which is a fancy way of saying raising money for nonprofits. I was extremely fortunate to have someone like my mom to guide and encourage me. Otherwise, I might never have known that that job even existed. In order to connect the dots, let's take what you uncovered in your energy memories and combine it with your aptitudes, like the exercise I did with my mom. This means writing out what you like and don't like, your skills and strengths, and things that you're passionate about or interested in, even if it's not entirely obvious what jobs you want to apply for. You'll have a starting point to explore. Here are some of Alicia's examples. Okay, so here we can just sit down and talk about or list likes and dislikes, strengths, and things that you're passionate about. So this is the example they had in the book. I can read it to you. The person in this book that she's talking about, Alicia, in this chapter, she liked time outside, ability to do independent work. I like independent work. Supportive work environment. And she dislikes zero work-life balance. Yeah, I dislike that as well. Lots of public speaking, a competitive environment, strengths, writing, attention to detail, inspiring others, passionate about or interested in building community, design, sustainability. I'm interested in sustainability, of course. Okay. So you can sit down and write down those things, likes, dislikes, strengths, and passionate about or interested in. What, like all those topics, you can make a little chart like this if you'd like. Your motivating values. Exploring job fulfillment doesn't mean deprioritizing financial security. We all need to pay our bills. What I am asking you to do is not to give up on the possibility that you can both love what you do and make money from it. In fact, the more you love your job, the better you'll do, which hopefully in turn means making more money. What's important is understanding all of your values and then seeing how they fit together. I want you to identify what you want out of your job. Are you after a big fat paycheck? Having people think you're important? No judgment, flex time. These are what are called in extrinsic values, tangible, definable things that are the byproducts of your job or occupation. Did you hear that? Extrinsic values are tangible, definable things that are the byproducts of your job or occupation. So tangible would things you can touch, definable things that are the byproducts of your job or occupation. In other words, what you get out of it rather than what you put into it. Your intrinsic values are things that when you use them at work, you find personally rewarding. Putting these values into two columns will make it easier to see how they can translate into job opportunities. Here's what Alicia's two columns of extrinsic and intrinsic values might look like. So what she puts in is connecting directly with the audience, helping others, external recognition or praise. So I'm going to make my little chart too. Intrinsic and extrinsic she gets what she gets out of it is being a leader, a stable paycheck, and flexibility. All right, determine your priorities. After I read this, I'm gonna make my list because I don't want to stop and take out time and do that when you guys could be listening to the book and getting out of it everything that you want to get out of it. We have 4 more pages. Okay. For this chapter and for tonight. Determine your priorities. It's important to remember that while the ultimate goal is to find the intersection of your interests, skills, and values, no one job can have it all. A good amount of career unhappiness comes from the misguided belief that it can. It's better to know your priorities and focus on opportunities that reflect them. What are you willing to give up? What are you willing to fight for? In other words, what do you consider to be a like to have? What falls under I'd rather not, and what is a need to have, otherwise known as a deal breaker. This is an opportunity to do a gut check and force yourself to be unsparingly honest as you consider what these things are for you. Remember that you are parsing out what you actually want and need versus someone else's expectations. Here are some examples based on Alicia's experience. She'd like to be in media, work in New York, make $100,000 salary. She'd rather not have office politics, work autonomously. She'd prefer a team and make less than $85,000. A deal breaker is lack of work-life balance, not being creative, anything less than $75,000 bottom line. As soul crushing as the consulting job. So I'm gonna go ahead and write that down so I won't forget after we get off this live that I need to write down what I'd like, not like, and my deal breakers. This is gonna help me form my company that I'm gonna form. As soul crushing as the consulting job had been, it did something amazing for Alicia. It woke her up to her deal breakers. What her boss's boss told her on the phone that day, she was sick verbalized. On the phone that day, she was sick, verbalized what she'd been feeling but ignoring since she started the job. If she wasn't a good fit for a consultant, she had to figure out what was a good fit for her. Notice that I didn't say what she was a good fit for. For the first time, Alicia's own needs were setting the bar. Evaluating the clues from her energy, memories, and digging more into her interests revealed to Alicia what her non-negotiable priorities were: work-life balance and creativity. At the consulting firm, she was always interested in what the design team was doing. She subscribed to design industry newsletters and played around in InDesign and Photoshop. Oh, I love Photoshop. Well, I love Illustrator. Alicia didn't consider it as a realistic career path. She was still stuck in the shoulds mindset, but she couldn't shake the joy she felt when she designed things, so she kept turning toward it, finding networking groups to join, reading about the industry, and searching for as many free education sources as she could. The more Alicia played with design, the more seriously she took it. When she worked on small personal projects, she felt in flow and she didn't want to stop. She began to to pay attention to a growing desire to try her hand at doing independent design work. She challenged herself to learn how to use Photoshop, and when she became proficient in it, she posted on Facebook that she was looking to do some pro bono work. Getting to experiment without the pressure of being paid will allow her to continue to learn and gain more confidence. Once she had a few projects under her belt, Alicia looked at her savings account and figured she had about 6 months runaway to try to make as a freelance designer. She decided that even if it went nowhere, she could use it to show a prospective future employer that she was self-motivated and willing to take risks. Alicia knew she had a lot to learn, but given how much she'd already taught herself, she was confident that she'd find a way to make it work. Shortly after that, she gave her 2 weeks notice. Take steps. That's the next part of hello. Take steps is the next part of chapter 1. Go ahead and hit the like button and subscribe and the notification bell if you want to continue to listen to this series of reading this book. Not everyone can quit their job, but we can all take steps, no matter how small, in the direction that feels right in the soul. Yes, it is a good read so far. It's called Ladies Get Paid by Claire Wasserman. Not everyone can quit their job, but we can all take steps, no matter how small, in the direction that feels right in our soul. Instead of trying to work backward from some predetermined endpoint like the corner office or proverbial white picket fence and 2.5 kids, the goal right now is to gather as much information as possible about what lights you up and what makes you tick. Take a step in a direction, any direction, and see how it feels. Read a book, learn a new skill, watch a webinar. Too often we feel paralyzed when we've put in work, but don't yet know the answer. Taking action means you're making progress. Signing up for class, progress. Showing up for class, progress. Listening to me read this book, progress. No doubt you'll be busy, tired, and at times uncertain. No one ever said making change was easy, and it will be tempting to quit and return to what you're comfortable with. Don't. From the beginning, set yourself up to be accountable. Put things on a calendar. Designate a buddy to check in with you, or give yourself a reward when you accomplish something you set out to do. That will help you get into the habit of feeling good and giving yourself permission to continue. By doing that, you've shown yourself that you can and deserve to take back control of your career. Just be aware that the voice of the shoulds may threaten to get loud again. That voice thinks it's protecting you from the prospect of failure that comes with veering off the traditional roadmap. Remind yourself that you're not throwing caution to the wind. You are being deliberate about moving in the direction of the career fulfillment. Learning to quiet the inner critic is getting more in tune with your instinct and allowing yourself to trust it. Tell that inner critic to hush if it starts to get loud again, but thank it first. It is just trying to protect you from potential pain and suffering. Ultimately, this is about learning to have faith in yourself, and it's a lot harder to do that if you always have this little voice inside that's telling you to be afraid. If you take one step and it feels good, take another. If it doesn't, try something different. The most important thing is to keep moving forward. That's exactly what I was talking about. This is a great read for guys too. Yes, it is a great read for guys too. That is what I was talking about earlier whenever I first started talking. Yeah, that inner voice can be something. Yes, it definitely is. Whenever I first started reading this book, I was like, Mom, I was telling my mom, this is going to be so boring for people to just sit here and watch me read, but it's going to help someone because I know people, especially in the Black and urban community, just people in general, and people these days, because they have such a short attention span, they may want to learn about financial stability and money management, but nobody really wants to just sit there and read. And I was like, I'm willing to sit here and read, and it's a great wind down session, especially with it being like 8:52 right now. Like, this is a great wind down session to get ready to go to bed. All right, so we have like 2 more pages, and I'm going to go ahead and finish. Well, 2 more pages front and back. So here's a case study. Reinvention. The second workshop I organized for Ladies Get Paid was about to how to get unstuck in your career. A friend of mine from college heard about it and reached out to tell me she'd be there. She was unhappy at her job in hospitality and needed a refresh. I was actually surprised to hear she hadn't gone in the direction of politics since she'd been really civically engaged during college. The workshop went well, and my friend felt encouraged to keep going. She hired Megan Hellerer, the coach from the workshop, and they worked together to come up with different things she could try to get a better sense of what lit her up. One thing Megan made sure to remind her was that a step in one direction or another didn't mean that it had to become her career. It was possible to be passionate about something and not make it your paycheck. Still, my friends soon realized that she might want to make her passion her paycheck, but she was concerned there wouldn't be much of one. She was headed back in the direction of political activism, and while it instinctively felt right, it might not pay off her student loans. However, she wasn't ready to give up on the career path that fulfilled her, and she was determined to find ways to make it work. She needed more information. Also, if she was going to try to break into this field, she needed to get involved. Over the next few months, she participated in a number of progressive organizations, attended rallies, and even helped me brainstorm ways to get Ladies Get Paid members more civically engaged. By getting exposure and making connections, she was able to see that it actually was possible to make a living doing this work. The next time I saw her was a year later at a town hall I hosted on reinvention. The event featured women who'd done the hard work of digging deep and making brave changes in their lives and careers. There were over 100 women in the audience, and at the end, I encouraged them to share their own reinvention stories. I've always wanted to run for office, said one as she stood up. And somebody on here wants to run for office. I'm just saying, I know somebody does, or I mean, who probably should. But women like me don't run for office. People who look like me don't run for office, she continued, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to run. The room erupted in cheers. Here was someone publicly declaring her intention to do one of the most difficult and vulnerable things that anyone can do. The point wasn't that she might win. It was that she was brave enough to try it, beginning by holding herself accountable. I was so happy for her. I cried. Wow. You should do it. And she did win. Less than a year later, she would go on to become the youngest congressman in U.S. history. Her name is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Oh my gosh, you guys. Siri just started talking to me in my AirPod, and that was like so weird. Women in politics, what an idea. Interesting. Okay, keep refining. The first thing Alicia did when she quit the consulting firm was to join a networking group that had been recommended by a fellow designer friend. Wow, she's from New York. That's crazy. Okay, so these are the last pages. So the first thing Alicia did when she quit. That's the lady that I was just talking about that ran. I could hear you talking to me, Ma. Okay. So the first thing Alicia did when she quit the consulting firm was to join a networking group that had been recommended by a fellow designer friend. She knew her limitations as a designer, so when she connected with prospective clients through the group, she set upfront expectations with them about her experience. Pretty quickly, Alicia was able to secure gigs, creating basic assets such as logos or advertising banners. She also took on additional jobs like data entry and copy editing to have some money coming in during this trial period. A way she measured progress wasn't just by the number of new gigs she got, but also by the new skills she learned. It made her feel confident enough to keep going. 6 months later, the financial runway Alicia had allotted for herself was coming up, and she needed to make a decision. Did she want to keep freelancing or find a full time job, tapping into the same skills of reflection and refinement that she used to extricate herself from the consulting job? She assessed where she was now and whether her original instinct about design was still right for her. It was. Alicia loved what she did for a living, but she wasn't quite sure about the isolation that comes with freelancing. She missed the camaraderie of being on a team, not to mention the steady paycheck. She also noticed that the work she particularly like doing was for up and coming companies, usually consumer facing and with a tech component. Using all of those factors to guide her, Alicia began searching sites like Payscale and Indeed to discover companies that might fit what she was looking for. One opening caught her eye. It was for a designer role at a recently launched media platform. Alicia could not have found a better job. It combined her interests and strengths with an environment where she could thrive. An added benefit was that she'd be able to work closely with the engineering department, an area that Alicia was interested in learning more about. She applied and got the job. All the exploration, self reflection, and self teaching had paid off, and now Alicia was about to embark on an opportunity that never would have happened if she stayed at the consulting firm. If you find yourself in a position like Alicia where you feel stuck or are wondering what's next, consider how and where you can grow. Whether your next step will give you skills, exposure, access to larger network, or a financial cushion to get you through leaner times down the road, or if you want to pick something that will build upon your last job, consider the industry as well. What direction is it going? And do you see a place for yourself in it? If you're feeling good in your current job, but looking for ways to grow, one way to envision how you might do so is to look at the career trajectories of your boss and other people who are high up in the company. In Alicia's case, now that she was in a role and at a company that shared her values, the agenda and insecurity she'd felt at the consulting firm evaporated. When I started my new job, I was almost like entering paradise. It was almost like entering paradise. It was like I was seeing the light now. Work doesn't have to make you feel small. It doesn't have to make you feel depressed. You don't have to work crazy hours. When I joined the company, I finally realized that actually there are other companies out there that care about their employees' life and creating great camaraderie between employees. It was truly incredible. When your work is aligned with your goals. That's cool. What do they do? What do city commissioners do? Let me know. So I hope you guys enjoyed that first chapter. We learned a lot. We took a lot of notes. We talked about things that we liked, our strengths, things that we didn't like, deal breakers for jobs, career paths you were exposed to growing up, things of that nature. Let me know in the comments if you guys liked that first chapter. We're going to continue with chapter 2 tomorrow. Go ahead and like the this video and go ahead and hit subscribe and click the notification bell so you'll be notified every time I post or go live so that you are able to continue with the series. I think that this is very interesting. It's opening up and helping us. It's opening up past memories and things that have formed the way that we think about certain positions in life and certain jobs and certain ways of making money and undoing a lot of things that we have been taught and unlearning lots of things that I'm glad you loved it. We're unlearning things that we have been taught about money management, jobs, salaries, being able to negotiate salaries. We're going to learn about all of that. So I'm so excited about chapter number 2. which is Get Out of Your Head. We're going to read chapter 2 tomorrow. That was a lengthy chapter. Chapter 1, y'all, my voice. Y'all, my voice is going to be tired by the end of this freaking series. But we got 11 chapters to do, and I'm so glad that we ended up doing the introduction, the author's note today, and chapter 1. So we got that squared away. Tomorrow we're only doing chapter 2. I'll probably get on around the morning time. What's the title of the book again? The title of the book is Ultimate Guide to Breaking Barriers, Owning Your Worth, and Taking Command of Your Career. Ladies Get Paid by Claire Wasserman. Let me show you again. That's the name of the book. I got it from my public library. So if you guys want to pick up a copy and read along with me, or get it on Audible or get it online tonight so you can read with me in the morning, because in the morning I have a doctor's appointment, and after I come back from it, it's going to be pretty early in the morning. I know in New York it will probably be like 7 a.m. when I go to my doctor's appointment, but here it will be 8 a.m. So as soon as I leave there, probably will be around 10 or 11, I will come back on live and read the book some more if you guys want to read along or listen to me read. And yeah, it'll be awesome. And actually, if you're from New York, sounds like it'll be good for men too. Yeah, it definitely probably will. Definitely. I feel like it would be too, because it's helping you sort out a way of thinking and how to dispel myths and how to get past the barriers that are keeping you from getting out of the 9 to 5 or choosing the career that you want instead of what you might be doing at the moment, or creating a brand or a business in the way that you want to, or creating your finances the way that you want them to do. And if you're from New York, I lived there for a while. I was in school at the New School, Parsons, the New School of Design is where I went to school. So that's pretty cool that you're from New York and you're watching. That's really cool. But anyway, yeah, tomorrow we're going to do chapter 2. And I can't wait to see you guys. So come back for chapter 2. Like I said, it'll probably be in the morning time. And if I get bored during the day and we've already finished chapter 2, then I'll come back with chapter 3. Probably around this time again. So anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Hit the like button on your way out. Don't forget, peace to the Middle East, and tell other people about me. Tell everybody about this video, people you think would be interested in that. I'm living in Michigan at the moment. Oh, okay, cool. I like Michigan too, even though I haven't been since I was like 6. But anyway, like tell people about it. If you think they would be interested in this series that I'm doing. I'm reading this book. So peace to the Middle East, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.